and welcome to the 27th episode of Back Alley Chat. Today, I have a very, very special episode for everybody. I have a special guest who is not only a lover of dogs, is not only a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He is an entrepreneur that understands the violence of entrepreneurship, and he also understands the violence of a bear market. He is a crypto enthusiast and a proud volunteer for the Suka community, and he's my love, my Philip. So, before we get into this episode, of course, we have to say a big thank you to our sponsor, Quick Intel, who you're going to learn a little bit more about today. Crypto investors lose their hard-earned money every day, and Philip's going to tell you more about that, to scammers because they don't know what or how to look into a contract code to protect themselves. So Quick Intel has created a hub of AI crypto safety and security tools to help you reveal and easily understand the risks of a project before you invest. No more investing blindly and hoping for the best. Become a confident crypto trader and protect your hard-earned money from scammers with Quick Intel. You can download the Quick Intel app on your iOS or Android device, and as always, show them a little bit of love. Hi, mi amor.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to Back Alley Chat.
This is great.
How cool are our shirts, by the way? Just saying, we got merch.
We're chatting.
Check it out in the thing below.
Can I keep this one?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
So, before we get into finance, I thought maybe we can tell our listeners a little bit about you. I know that you were born in Long Island.
Yes. I was born in New York, but I don't quite embody that at all. I moved here when I was 10.
Right.
So I grew up here. I grew up in South Florida, and I think similar to you, I grew up really disliking it down here. And then it wasn't until me kind of going through and growing up a little bit that I realized that South Florida is the best. The best.
The land of opportunity.
Yeah. And so I grew up down here. I grew up in Coral Springs, so I got to do the circuit of public schools over there. And we grew up pretty close to each other because West Boca is about a stone's throw away from Coral Springs. I've known you for a long time.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
10 years probably. More, maybe.
Yeah.
So now you were the troubled child in your household, of course. I wouldn't pick anybody else.
Well, up until recently, I was the only child.
Right.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Tell us about that.
So I grew up an only child, and my mom had an easier time focusing all of her energy on trying to make me a person. So,
And a little bit of background about your mom. She's a nurse, and she was in the Army.
Yeah, she was an officer in the Army. She was a military official. She's very serious. And then, she's also a nurse. She's been head nurse at every hospital that I've been carted around to since I was able to acknowledge me going to work with mom. But I used to like it. I mean, when she was a single mom for my whole life, my father was, they had gotten divorced before I was born, or just after I was born. And we had like a touch and go relationship. But yeah, me and my mom, it was always us together. And we were actually really close when I was very little.
I believe it.
Yeah. And then war broke out. And we ended up having a little bit of what you would call a troubled relationship. It couldn't be more incredible. I have a relationship with my mom that I see people have, and I admired. And now I never, ever, ever thought that was something that would be available to me, and it's been great.
One of my favorite stories about your mom. So Phil was being a bad child, and he was running the streets and getting into all sorts of trouble, and his mom was like a spy / what would you describe her as? A czar?
They called her the condo commando. And she would walk around with all 3 of her dogs at all times and patrol the neighborhood. And anything that was afoot that was no good, she took personal conviction in making sure she fixed it.
So Philip was driving around and he was convinced that somebody was following him and that his mom knew where he was and could like listen in on him, but he wasn't sure if it was like that was real or if it was just the drugs. But come to find out, his mom, and this was back in the day, this was back in the early 2000s, had made a contraption in his vehicle.
So when you do drugs, it comes with this odd thing that happens. We all experience. We think people are following us. We think people are listening to us. There's bugs in the fire detector. I had a bug in my fire detector. She bugged my car. She tapped my phone. And this was back before she was like Get Smart. She was like using real serious technical apparatus.
She was like putting a phone in your engine.
Yeah, it really wasn't that sophisticated. She got a cell phone.
That's a good idea, though.
She turned it on for the senior. There's a senior setting where if a specific number calls you, it auto answers. So if they can't get to the phone, it'll do it. So my mom had this phone set up. She wired a mic through the headboard of the car all the way up to so she had beautiful acoustics. She had like this great, all these good angles at something like this, but hidden inside my vehicle. And so, yeah, I guess she'd be like, hey, I remember when I was younger, there was a random change in the tide. Everything went from aggressive in trouble to go have fun. And I remember being like, wow, weird. All right. And they were building this case against me to just take me down. And it was, honestly, it's funny, but I thank God for these types of experiences.
Thank God your mom was so on top of you and cared so much.
Yeah. Granted, I broke her. She's a shadow of the great warlord she used to be. But now she's calmed down, and she really hasn't changed at all. It's just I've changed with the way I expect her to be and interact with her, and it's led to like a really, really great relationship.
And how old were you when Liam and Helen were born?
My beautiful baby brother joined our family when I was about 15 years old. And so going from only child my whole life, this was really a major, major change. So my mother got remarried after I was like 14 years, she gets remarried. And they decide we're going to have kids. And so by
the way, his mom was like in her late 40s, 50 at the time.
Yeah. So really back, and this is a long time. It's 20 years ago. So my mom was like, they were trying to have kids. My mom was on the older end of the spectrum, you would say. And so they were like, we got to do in vitro. And in vitro back then was a little bit more of like throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. And it was very expensive. And so they did in vitro, did a few rounds of it, however that works. And it ended up taking. And they were like, you have a child. And I remember us being like, yeah, of course I was like, yay, I didn't, and then the doctor comes back and he goes, Miss Robles, your new baby boy has an aggressive case of Down syndrome.
What?
And everyone was, and because it was in vitro, you can reshuffle if you want, for lack of a better way to describe it. And so my mom and my stepdad, my stepdad is a saint.
Yeah, Eddie's awesome.
Eddie is he's the glue that really held people together. And my mom needed that. My mom needed like a passive right-hand man that would just be with her. So, so they were like, your new child has Down syndrome and his life is going to be challenging and your lives are going to be challenged. I do remember hearing a bit of the conversation and feeling just like that, like, oh my God. And they were like, but there's options. We can redo this again, try again. It's not really a thing. And my parents were distraught. They went home, and I remember them talking about it a little bit, and I guess they mulled it over, and they decided we're going with God. If he wanted us,
really? Wow.
Oddly enough, because they did in vitro, but they were like, we're going with God. If this is what God wants, he wants us to have this child, we're going to keep them. And not many months later, my beautiful, angelic, non-Down syndrome brother was born. I mean, obviously, I think we're all on the spectrum to some degree, but he is...
And he's a giant.
He's enormous.
He's so big.
He's very big. He is 6'3", 230 pounds.
All
big,
muscle.
Big bodybuilder, big weightlifter. He's the largest Peruvian to ever exist. I always tell him, I said, if they find out you're here, they're going to take you back and try to reinstall the Aztec Empire. Or Inca, yeah.
So at some point, you mosey off onto your time in the world as an adult.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what was like the first job that you actually, sales at the cruise line?
Was this...
Oh, after Publix.
After I became
Philip
a
used
person?
to work at Publix, and he used to do card tricks for the old ladies when he was walking them to their cars, and they used to give him little tips and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's really good at the tricks still.
The tricks haven't left. But I was like, wow, I can get tips. And then I remember that really changed things for me because I would go to the card people and I'd be like, yeah, I'm just in school and things are challenging for me when I get off from school and watch cartoons and I'm just trying to make it. And they'd be like, oh, chick, 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 chick. And I was like, wow, this is great. And then they circumvented me by saying, no, you can't get these tips anymore. This is right when Publix was like, maybe we can't have them extorting people on the way to the car. And then they were like, all right, we'll give them these. They can get compliments. And then when you get compliments, you get these wooden, I don't know my Publix people, the wooden Indian head coins. Those, and then you could use those like money. It's like Bitcoin way early in the day. And you'd be able to use that and get sandwiches and all kinds of stuff. So I had a cache of these tokens once they told me I couldn't get money anymore. But Publix was my first job. That was my first introduction to working with people.
And so everything I think Philip's ever done, he's always been very passionate about. And so eventually you get into your insurance company.
Yeah.
You started your own firm, right?
Yeah.
And you help old people.
Yes.
With their Medicare.
Yes. I love Medicare.
You gotta love it to do it.
I very much do enjoy Medicare. I have to be careful not getting into Medicare conversations with people like at bars or if I'm out because I do very much love talking about Medicare. But yeah, I started my office. I worked in sales. I was raising money for people for different type of investment vehicles, and I was doing really, really well. And I remember just that I had made more money than I had made previously, and a consistent thing at this business was all of our clients lost hellaciously. Everybody lost money, and I was doing the best I've ever done. So it was a little weird.
Didn't feel good.
Didn't feel the best. And I may not have actually noticed that it didn't feel good, but it just didn't feel right. And I remember talking with my buddy at the time who owned the firm, and I was like, hey, why don't we like make a little less and they can make money? And everyone was like, that's outrageous. That doesn't make any sense. And so I left. And when I left, I decided I would do that on my own. And it turned out just that the chips fell as they had, and we ended up about facing a little bit, but I didn't want to go back to what I was doing, so I was like, I had an ex-girlfriend at the time whose family had gotten into insurance and done really well, and I was like, if these people can do insurance, I know I can do that. So I started with the insurance. Ironically enough, went completely underwater within 6 months. Went like a complete an immediate nosedive through all of my capital. And yeah, because in insurance, if you guys, welcome to insurance, if you can either sell, it's a seesaw, right? You either sell plans that there's money for commissions, or you sell plans that there's money going into the benefits. And that's kind of how it goes. So you're either making a lot of money or you're giving them good benefits. And there's not really a good middle ground with the business. So
that's regular insurance?
That's regular insurance.
Yeah. So that's why you moved to the Medicare?
And then I moved to Medicare. And thank God we found Medicare, because Medicare is everything I ever could have hoped for and more. And everything we do to interact with a person, you help them.
What do you think about Medicare for all?
I think that's probably the way it's going to go.
Really?
Yeah, I would say. I would say that what they're going to do is they're going to slowly acclimate everybody to extending the Medicare age down, and then they'll start swallowing like other parts of the population. And then it'll eventually be like, it is a form of like socialized medicine. So it's going to be, we'll probably have something similar to what Canada is doing.
Does it work? Well,
Medicare works great.
Yeah.
And it's a few parts because obviously, on one end, there is egregious waste, like anything, but they have a really good system where, when you're dealing with seniors and the elderly, Medicare's first payer. So if anything comes about with Medicare and funds or payment to doctors, hospitals, surgeons, they pay first dollar right away. They just get it done because these are seniors. They're the highest protected class of people that we have. And what Medicare will do is if you bill Medicare, they'll pay it. And if they pay you, they're going to make sure you deserved to be paid.
That's great. Maybe we do need that.
Yeah. So if Medicare will pay it, you send them a bill, we'll do it, writing checks, but they are coming back around. And if you did not deserve every penny of what you've been given, because that's all our hard-earned money, that's for the money for all of us, they're going to nail you to the wall. And that's why I love the compliance. And I was a whole new man. It changed everything. Realizing like, wow, compliance, this big barrier to entry, it really keeps like the people doing the right things in business and helps like all of this come together. And it's a really, Medicare is a beautiful, beautiful program. And it seems to be changing every day. And they're adding a ton of money for people with like social programs. And obviously, the amount of people that are under the poverty line are rapidly growing.
Increasing.
Yeah, so
yes.
it's never ever seen the amount of growth in that respect. So there's tons of money flooding in for things to make that work, and it's been great. So we deal with Medicare and Medicare with Medicaid. So anybody who's elderly and in under the poverty line.
So you're doing this. What caused you to make your first crypto purchase, and what was your first crypto purchase?
Wow. Yeah, I remember, I guess that was all things. I remember wanting to be involved in crypto and talking a lot about it before I was actually involved. Certainly to the degree I am now. But I remember, I think it was Coinbase. Coinbase, thank you. Coinbase started putting out all those little educational things where you could
get money.
You could do that, and they would send you like tokens, right? And I remember helping a ton of people do that. And I remember being like, look, you can learn about crypto, because I was really interested in like the tech behind it, and I really liked cryptography. And when I was younger, I was really interested in computer and security. So
Philip used to hack what was the game that you played?
Halo. But that cryptography and just anything computer related, I was trying to get into like penetration testing when I was younger. I was really interested in cybersecurity. I wanted to go work with the Navy because I was like, my mom's in the military, so I was like, I'm gonna be in the Navy. I'm gonna be a penetration tester. I'm gonna go hack against the North Koreans. I'm gonna win. And and then eventually, I think I woke up one day and way younger than I should have been worrying about this, but I had a dream that I woke up in a kiosk fixing computers, and I was like 50 years old.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I need to get a job. And and then sales was then for then on out. Who'd have thought that this would all come full circle?
Right.
And if I had just stuck with the computer kiosk thing, it would be a Taj Mahal kiosk, and we'd all be insanely wealthy. So,
so what was the first thing you bought? Was it Bitcoin?
Either Bitcoin or Ethereum. Actually, it might have been Bitcoin. Yeah, I think I bought Bitcoin. They had given us some of these little tokens from when I converted them into Bitcoin, because I remember there was a point when I made a major move into Ethereum. So before that, yes, I was heavily into Bitcoin, stacking sats, making sure that, but I didn't know what I was getting involved in.
Right. Well, that's my next topic. Is we're gonna get into why quick intel is so important. Because Philip was involved, and I've been around for his entire crypto journey. So I've got to experience the highs, the lows, the hoping for a high or hoping and expecting for a low.
Right.
And
Hopium. Hopium.
The Thanksgivings on our phones, looking at getting rug pulled by, who is that? Snowballs.
Oh, the AVAX.
The avalanche.
Yeah, avalanche. Yeah, we got rugged on every corner of the avalanche.
This was during 2020, right? He really got involved in COVID during 2020, during COVID. And so
That's right.
because there wasn't a way to check these contracts, it was super easy to,
Well, there were ways.
okay, but you just didn't care.
I had no idea, know about
Or didn't know about it.
Didn't know, yeah.
Okay, so you would get involved in these projects that
Shitcoins.
seemed really cool, the meme coins, the shit coins, which are like Sheeb and like...
Yeah, I would say any project that's not like super established, because I mean, if you think of crypto just like LLCs, because anyone could just like start an LLC and be like, we're going to do this, and then that's a cryptocurrency. It's the same thing. It's just a shell to which you can do things if you choose to. So hopefully the people that say they're going to do things choose to do those things, and then you get decent or good projects. But before that, what you would consider maybe like a blue chip crypto project, you get these, everybody's in like this crucible of shit coins where you're just amongst tokens that do nothing, have no purpose, may have solely a nefarious purpose, and everything in between. So it's everybody's kind of in that melting pot until you get these breakaway projects. And then that's why it can be so lucrative, because if you can find these projects that really do well amongst the sea of these miserable shit tokens, that's what the money's for. That's how that works. So, and it's not easy. It's not easy to deduce. You need, and I had a very, very lucky experience being able to get involved in a project very, very early that did insanely well.
Was this the first one?
Saitama. And Saitama may have made me a diabetic, by the way. I think that might have been what had done it.
The stress from Saitama.
I think that's what did it. But
Saitama gave us a vacation, though.
Saitama did. It gave us a lot.
Yeah.
I like to think, in hindsight, we'll notice more of the things. But yeah, Saitama started it all. And I remember getting into a project and see it do like a 7,000x is... You're in the game, and now you get to have
now you get a Lambo,
get after it, and it was great. And then it's really hard to not think that your ability got that to you, though. So like you do this well, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, look at me, I'm good at this, and I have merit and value based on the large size of the bag, and I couldn't be further from the truth. So it's funny how that works, because then we got a very, very lovely lesson in underlying market dynamics. And yeah.
What? Before we go further, can you explain exactly the idea of crypto?
Yeah.
Like, why is it important? Why does it really matter?
So I imagine most people don't realize, but when I got into crypto, I had no idea that I was part of like a global humanity movement. And what I mean by that is from the minute Bitcoin became a thing, every day before then, through every minute and second of history, our world worked one way. We had to rely on a person as an intermediary for things. Mm-hmm. Unless you're going to a yard sale and buying something directly from a person, you need to have some middleman to some degree. Mm-hmm. Buy a car, get a mortgage, go to, if you buy ice cream, you buy from a store. These are all middlemen. Mm-hmm. And we may not notice it, but we trust these intermediaries. And the minute Bitcoin arrived on scene, it changed the fundamental way we're able to do all things. And I think about it a lot. It's really, really amazing that we have just stumbled into this movement. But Bitcoin has made it so that you have the ability to transact safely, transparently, and 100% accurately with people directly without having to worry about whether, in terms of money, okay, so this person gave me $1. Did they have $1? Did that dollar come to me? Did they also tell other people that they would have that dollar as well? And Bitcoin makes all of those things impossible. They can't happen. So Bitcoin is a locationless accounting Roomba that facilitates all transactions of movement and accounting. And for the rest of the time all of us are here, we are going to be installing Bitcoin and these processes in between all of the intermediaries that we have now. And we're going to be able to do anything else we want as people. And it's going to be a fully trustless environment. It's really good.
And you're basically talking, though, about blockchain technology, right?
Right.
Because could you explain, because maybe it'll be easier to understand how if we use blockchain for voting, how that would be similar and more transparent?
So really, blockchain is a simple matter of just you can look at any one part and see all of the other pieces, okay? So there is 100% transparency. That's why, luckily, we have anonymity, because everybody can see everything. So if you imagine anything on blockchain is like clear P.O. boxes. So if we're in a room full of P.O. boxes and everybody can see in everybody else's P.O. box, which you'd think that's not good, but nobody knows whose P.O. box is who unless you're doxxed on a national television show. So we all have the ability to see everything, everywhere, and what's going on, and it's all accounted for in a way that is secured by mathematics rather than people and them verifying that these things are true. Just, people, eyewitness accounts are not really good at those things. So to make it a little bit more simpler, if you had a dollar bill and every penny of that dollar, you'd be able to look inside and see the movement and action and location of every other penny that makes up that dollar. So with voting, you'd be able to cast a vote, and if you casted a vote, there would be no need for a person, a group of people, or an entity to make sure that vote was accounted for, that vote was accounted for properly. They can see how you made that vote. They could say that you're the one that made the vote, and it would be impossible for you to vote again unless that was something that they wanted to happen. So it's just about making sure that our actions are visible, transparent, and guaranteed to be accurately accounted for. And that process translated into everything is something that...
Like right now, we don't know what our banks do, right, with our money. We give them our money. They use our money to finance things, to buy debt, they do so many things with our dollars that we just don't have a clue. And with something like blockchain, we'd be able to see exactly where all of our money was, and everyone would have some sort of better responsibility and transparency so that the little people like us don't constantly get fucked over because we would be able to see what was going on. So that's why crypto is becoming so popular. Because
Web3 with our data. So like being able right now, you have no idea really how your data is being used. Your data is being sold to all of these people so that they can just find out more about actions people and use that stuff in marketing and just understanding the inner workings of the people around us. And for you to be able to be on Web3 is essentially just the liberation of the internet to where now every person individually can see where their data is going and being used, and they have ownership of that data. And even if it's being parlayed by another entity or group, you can see it, and it's still always tied to you. And we're in.
So you're in Saitama. Saitama does great. Lambos everywhere. Everyone's excited. Then a dreadful night in December happens where they have a party in Las Vegas. I'll tell the story because maybe, I don't know. But everyone had a frown from that day forward. So Saitama starts to go down, but the whole market does, right? Around that time. December of, was it 2020 or 21?
Yeah, we thought it was a Saitama-related event, but really Saitama was just the last big blow-off top for the whole market.
Right.
And we just happened to end up in the last warrior in battle, and we watched that warrior fall.
And it was sad. It's sad to watch.
I thought we were going to have to move.
A red line going with all your money.
Yeah, watching it go down and the problem is that once it passes a certain point, it's not like real anymore. And not that it's not real, it's very real, but it doesn't have the same considerations that real things have. Like you're like, oh, this $10 million will go to 40 million. Like it's not a problem. And you're you're just detached from reality to some degree. And that's why staying grounded, not being emotional, all these things are things that you learn when being in the market that are like of utmost importance. And
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's super important to not freak out, because anytime what's even happened, we're like, oh, fuck it, sell.
Yeah, you
Fuck,
FUD
why'd
me.
I sell?
No FUD.
Right, don't
No
FUD
FUD.
me.
Don't FUD me.
That's all I hear.
Don't
And I'm like,
FUD me.
it's not FUD, it's just a question. So at some point, you're kind of disenchanted with Saitama. Their dev team is kind of doing their own thing. They don't seem to be... For me, I own Saitama, so I can talk as a Saitama holder. Don't seem to have a lot of faith in the dev team anymore, for me personally. And so Philip was looking around, and all of a sudden you come across Suka. Now, Suka has a really cool story. It's a coin like all the other ones, but not really, because of the way it was launched, and it's just very special, right? So basically with Suka, what happened was Shiba Inu is one of the biggest meme coins to ever hit the market, right, Lovey? Biggest. And I guess once they got big, the development team was kind of having some disagreements. Troubles.
Yeah.
Now, the main guy who made Shiba Inu was... Rayoshi. Okay, so Rayoshi is not happy because Rayoshi believes in... Decentralization. So he was like, I'm out.
Well, he said... Can we ring this in? Can we bring this in? We got to get back. There's a bunch of stuff going on. We got to get back to the fundamentals and what I laid out to begin with. What got us to... Shiba Inu did a 950,000x pump. It made so much so that every other project after them has the word Inu in the name. That's where all of that started. Everyone went, we got to put Inu in there. We're going to get the pumps going. And they went up over the bar. They did an insane increase. And since then, everything was changed. And they started getting away from the fundamentals that got them to that point, because just like I described with my Saitama story, the bag goes up and you're like, I got this. And you don't. And it's really about preserving those fundamentals that always win. And he said something to that. Nobody knew this in the community until it boiled over publicly, because he tweeted them and was like, can we get this going back to y'all are messing everything up? And the problem was they responded with like, you must not be watching what's going on. We got this. And so he was like, he bounced and he deleted everything, left completely the project, and disappeared off into obscurity. Gone. And nobody knew what was going on or what was happening. And mom and dad split up, dad left and never came back. And that was that. And that became a period of pandemonium for crypto to some extent.
How did you stumble across Suka in general? Was it just being on Dex Tools? Like, how did you find Suka, the project?
So I came into Suka trying to dismantle it. So a good friend of mine, Patty Stash, one of the Suka boys, he had told me, hey, I got this project. I just aped into it. It's got all the little things. I think and I think it's a Rayoshi project. And you as you probably gathered from the story, the minute Rayoshi disappeared, at least a year had gone by. So a long time where he had said nothing. A fairly public figure. The figurehead for this movement of decentralization disappears. And in that absence, all the smart, nefarious tokens decided to say, we're his new project, and we are Rayoshi, and Ryoshi's with us. He's in the back room. He's just not coming out, but he's with us. And they preyed on everybody, but that's how it is in crypto. If you aren't careful, it's how it goes.
That's why it's important to use Quick Intel.
Having a contract wildly important. If you are able to operate on DeFi and you want to do well, you have to remember that you are the one responsible for safeguarding your funds, your things. And, when you have the bank that does it, you have to trust them to do it, and that's great, and they seem to do a reasonably good job. But the negatives that come with that is they may wake up like the Canadians and say, we've paused withdrawals, and you have a problem. So making sure that you are self-custodying all of your things and you are the custodian of all of your stuff, it does come with a little bit of know-how, understanding, and technical acumen, but they make it very easy, and everything's hard until you learn it. So where were we?
So you went to go say, this Suka is not real, Rayoshi, this is not a Rayoshi project.
Right. So this project, he goes, it's one of these Rayoshi projects. And I went, bro, there is no Rayoshi project. And he was like, it is. And I said, okay. So I went in and I said, okay, I'm going to infiltrate the group. I'm going to find out where all the nonsense is. I'm going to start looking back at the conversations, and I'll find the smoking gun that says, we're going to trick everybody in Rayoshi. And, now I'm head of the admin team, and I make coffee and sweep for the Sangha. So I could not be a more devout volunteer for the community. And we found Rayoshi.
And it's so cool because basically it was like a little, not choose your own adventure, but you really have to, what would you call that?
Well, it's
like a rabbit hole you get to go down.
When Rayoshi, okay, so this person, we're going to keep mentioning him. He's not just like a figure. This person's playing 3D chess in crypto, okay? He's 48 moves ahead in a whole different playing field. So when he made Suka, he did it in a way that coincided with a year anniversary of him leaving Shiba Inu, and he launched the token 4 days before he changed his verified profile to the person that represented the token that at the time nobody knew about. So
that is...
And it had what?
Who is it?
The Milarepa. The Milarepa is like a pretty obscure Buddhist yogi that has a life of like transformation and redemption, because they had created something and there was destruction and they had to get to center. And okay, the theme's all here. So he launched this token quietly in the pit of the bear market, didn't tell anybody about it, didn't put any money into it, just basically tacked together a wooden barge and put all these tokens on it and just like set it adrift. And it became a pirate community. People bought it, others didn't. You remember the crucible of shitcoins we talked about? That's to which it was born from. And some people bought it, people made money, some people got wrecked. But at some point, the only other instance of an organic community that started from a project of immaculate conception started out of nowhere. And it was only months later, that the community started realizing this project was linked to Rayoshi research. And then Rayoshi is a second iteration of his community experiment in decentralization that started with Shiba Inu. So for us to find out that we, by happenstance, stumbled into this arms race of building a decentralized community, again, you never know you're getting involved in these things.
And the reason why it's cool is because when most coins are created, they have, like we've been talking about, a development team. They have people that are in charge, that are making the decisions for the coin, and the community has like very little say. They're just kind of buying the coin and going along for the ride, like how we were with Saitama. But for this, Rayoshi didn't actually, and when they start those coins, they take coins for themselves, right? They do things to enrich themselves before making the coin available to everybody. Rayoshi didn't do any of that. He just silently started a coin and threw it out into the universe for people to find and make what they wanted of it, right? And now Philip oversees this community, and they, as a community, build
everything
utility and whatever they want.
And really, the community has, if we consider it the parallel with LLCs, right? I don't think there's ever been a time an LLC had formed out of nowhere and a profitable business had just generated on top of it. That's not something. There would have to be magic at play for that to happen. So for that to happen with a community, it's the same magic requirements that would be necessary. So this is something that's special. And as a community now, the idea of decentralization is really simple. There's no single one point of failure. So you can't wake up and your coin is just gone. There is no team that was starting before the team organically grew from nothing. So you don't have any insiders. You don't have people that like hoarded tokens for themselves for good reason or otherwise. It's not necessarily a bad thing to make sure, like I said, this is, if you really want to do well, you look at it like a business. And if you're going to have a business, your business needs a way to make money. And a lot of these people, when they start a project, they're like, all right, well, I'm going to keep a bunch of these tokens and I'll use them to get influencers on board. I'll use these tokens to give them to exchanges so they can list my token, make it more accessible. The problem is people are not good at accountability, which is the same thing as accounting. And that accountability, when things are good, it's really easy for your project to be forward focused and do the right thing. But when circumstance shows up and things get hard, we're not the best people at finishing what we start. And then if you're the key person in a project and you have all these tokens and you've decided, fuck it, you got all these tokens, you start selling them, you give it away, you ruin the community, you destroy everything. And that is not possible in Suka. I mean, obviously we're susceptible to going up and down, but no one got in unfairly. Right. And that's something that we're trying to really foster in DeFi, which is just decentralized finance, which is just, it's the crypto world. And it's all the processes of normal traditional finance facilitated by these locationless accounting Roombas. And as that gets navigated out, and our whole world's going to change. It's going to free us up. We're going to have ultimate trust in things, and it's going to be a major change in our whole humanity. I love it.
I love it. So through the Suka journey, you ended up with your own TV show. So now we have two famous TV personalities in one house. So Philip got chosen as part of a group. There was like multiple different tokens that got chosen for a show called The Next Crypto Gem. It's out right now. I think there's 4 or 5 episodes.
Yeah, fourth one just dropped.
So fourth one just dropped. It's really good. You guys got to check it out. I love watching it every week with Philip. So he was so nervous. They had to go out to California, and he gets there, and I was like, oh my God, this is like a real deal, like TV show. Like,
serious.
Yeah, it's serious.
Scary.
So they had to go and compete with other cryptocurrencies on different, kind of like a
Shark Tank.
Shark Tank, kind of like a Shark Tank vibe, to see who is the next crypto gem.
Yeah, Shark Tank makes a so like Suka's utility is if you hold it long enough, you get up on a TV show. That's great. So don't let anybody tell you anything different. But we ended up, somebody suggested it, we applied. And we sent in like an audition video, me and my buddy. And what happened was they pit you against like 40 or 50 other projects in the beginning, like in the behind the scenes rounds. And they had us do some of these things, and then they kept having us do where you going? Try to
like a tryout?
Yeah. They kept doing stuff like that.
Right.
And I guess our peg just kept like moving across the board. And it finally got to the point where they were like, all right, you guys are it. So let's get you out here. So they flew us out to California, and they had us compete in the final 4. And they whittled this big group of projects down to 4 projects. And it was 3 gaming projects and us, Suka. And we ended up showing up, and at first we were terrified. I was terrified. And after as the days progressed, and we realized, oh, it's a challenge based, and we're here to compete. And we know crypto so well. We love crypto so much, and we just crushed it. So it was awesome. It was awesome.
When Philip was out in California, I've never heard him actually talk to me like this. He was leaving the hotel, and he was dead serious, and he was like, if something happens to me, it's this hotel. You need to know that something's going on at this hotel, and I need you to know if something happens to me, then look here. But his voice was so serious. I had never heard that tone of voice from him. And I realized, I said, because they were in a hotel that had like a kitchenette and stuff like that, I go, oh, that's why it feels like that. You're in there with a bunch of homeless people.
Yeah, why was that?
Because in LA, they use, and here too, everywhere, they put people up in hotels that have kitchenettes and stuff like that because it's like an apartment, but there's no housing. So because there's no housing, we have to utilize hotels.
What's going on in LA?
It's terrible
What's
out there.
What's happening
They're
in California?
falling. They are the next Saitama.
Are you trying to go through as much money as possible figuring out the wrong way to do things? Is that what's happening?
Well, who should they hire?
Me.
You.
Us.
Why did they hire you?
I don't know. That was not my show. I don't know.
It's my show.
I know, but I need my own merch. Who do I talk to about this?
Yeah, it's crazy
Allie.
out there.
Allie.
Because I'm the homeless czar.
She's the czar of homelessness. What a cool, and you know what? Do they know how much you do?
I don't know.
Do they know all that you do?
I'm not sure.
This girl, really, her accolades should start and stop with taking care of me. Because that is a feat in and of itself. But she's in school. She's in a cumbersome amount of classes. She's trying to do very well. She tries hard. She cares. She works with homeless people. She doesn't just work with homeless people. It's not a job. She doesn't just hang up the badge when she comes home and not deal with the homeless. Homeless people have infiltrated our lives. We are here to talk about them, make them better. We have constant discussions. She's always listening to politics. She's like, how do we get this fixed? She's trying to really solve issues when we're at home and we're watching TV. And she does not stop. She works out. She takes care of all her friends. She cares. I love this girl. I don't know how I got so lucky. And I thank God I got into a TV show because she's already had her own TV show. So I'm just trying to keep up.
And I was so glad I was there to just give you some, cheer you on and to give you some tips on your TV show because you looked so good. He looks so good on his show and he's definitely like the funniest. So if they weren't going to keep them around because of the quality of their project, they had to keep them around for the quality of his personality.
Right, that's the point. They go, oh, they kept you on because you guys were you were hilarious. And I was like,
thanks.
I mean,
I guess.
I like crypto. I don't know. I thought I'd know that stuff too. Yeah.
And now you're even starting to speak at like different crypto conferences. I feel like this is going to open up doors to a whole new world for you and just doing something that you enjoy. You love the internet. Philip loves the internet because before the crypto things, he was on Facebook, which I know makes him sound like a boomer, but
I love Facebook.
He was like a meme person on the internet and that's all he did all day was memes and everyone loved it. And then even as a kid, you loved your Halo community. You were always on the online talking to people, which I wish I was better at because if you follow me, you know that I am the worst at responding to internet stuff.
Yeah, but those type of traits didn't come by me like altruistically becoming a social person. I was socially inept.
Right.
And so the only outlet I had was when Xbox Live came out, and I remember being like, wow. I can play with people that are across really my best friend, Charlie Brown, Charles Creed Brown IV. His family was Charlie Brown before Charlie Brown was Charlie Brown. And Charlie Brown, for me to be able to play with my best friend, Charlie Brown, and us not be in the same house was about as pivotal of a moment as us finding Bitcoin. I was like, wow. And then I became obsessed and I became entrenched in I really felt like I had because I guess in hindsight, I didn't have too small of a group of friends. I wasn't so alone as I thought or felt, but I definitely felt very alone. And so me being able to connect with these fictitious people, they're not really, there's real people on the internet, and then feel like camaraderie, connection, care, and then ended up meeting a lot of these people and them coming down, which is really normal now. Mm-hmm. Back then,
very strange.
They were like, oh, so you're a Halo chat room? You're like meeting up with people? I was like, yeah, it was like really bad. And I can only imagine. So, but yeah, it really made me feel like I have a place. And that's where it started. And then crypto, it was just an extension of that. So, I mean, and I didn't know when I got into crypto that there were like projects. And I didn't know projects were like groups of people that you could go look at what's going on. And then I didn't know there were community projects. And then I didn't know that there were communities. And finding all this out is like, that's why we're here. But yeah, so I would say, yes, things have changed because that show, thank God for Suka. Because if I didn't have the community, because remember, I'm just a volunteer. So And when we had to do that show, man, like Allie says, I was shook. When that first, because we had the first thing of filming, and it wasn't a show where they're like, hey, this is what you guys are going to do it to the best of your ability. It's a reality show. So they were like, hey, you're going to do things. Good luck. And so I was like, wow. And simply in the introduction, all we had to do was walk on stage and introduce ourselves. And I was like, and they were like, oh, and I said, can I start again? And they were like, yeah, go. 30 people going, and I'm going, okay, can I cut? He goes, you don't say cut. And I go, okay. And then they cut. And then I was like, okay, I had to collect myself. If you watch the first episode, just envision
him
me
and Pat walk out. They're like these two crypto bros. Not really, but kind of. And they're like, oh. And they say in unison, we're from sunny South Florida.
And they go, we walk off and they go, did you plan that? And I go, I'm surprised I said anything. I said, I was terrified. I'm paralyzed with fear. But thank God, because that day I went home. I'll never forget this, Allie. I'll never forget going home and walking back to the hotel, the homeless encampment, and going, I can't do this. It's like, I can't. All is lost. I said, I can't do this. I don't know what's going to happen. Pat's going to have to do this on his own, or the poor Suka Knights are going to go down like Alderaan, and that's going to be that. And I had to, like, look myself in the eyes and pray and beg myself to be like, you, what would come from your life by falling back into comfort and fear and not doing something big like this would have a butterfly effect on every bit of the fabric of your future. Mm-hmm. And so I said, going out there and just bombing would be less bad than recoiling and failing ultimately by not doing it. Mm-hmm. And that got me right out there. And then the next day we had challenges and I was like, oh, competition. And then we were good. And then it was great. But since then, like, I feel awoken and I feel like I've broken out of that shell. And so I've always felt like I obviously am a bit of a performer, but only because I'm like really passionate about stuff. So being able to focalize that gun and fire it at stuff is, it feels like we're on the precipice of like some major change.
Well, you did good. You did something that was super scary that you were like petrified about. Mm-hmm. And then once you got through it and realized it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be, and you did better than you thought you would do, right. It makes it easier to do other scary things. That's why it's so important to take chances and to do things when you're scared. And the advice I gave him was, you got to do as good as you can possibly do, because you're going to watch this show one day and go, fuck, I wish I did better, if you don't do the best you can possibly do.
That's literally, she said, I remember being like, I can't do this. And she was like, you could tell. I could tell that you could tell that you were like, oh boy. Because you were like, you better do the best you can. Because it's going to be out there and you better just do your best. And I remember being like, holy fuck. Oh my God, that didn't help at all, girl. I love you so much. I was like, wow. And no, but it did. And now, like you said, Cypherpunk 2023, big DeFi convention expo. I've been into, I think it's the second one I've been to now. And it's just, they had me on this panel I did a 30-minute presentation on decentralized finance and focused on Suka. Got to do obviously they had me on the panel because of the next crypto gem, because there's a bunch of people part of the show, but yeah, it's been wildly, it's been really rewarding, and it's just every step there's more stairs, and those stairs are just the only way to the top, and it's funny because it does sound really cliche, but even the presentation I just had to do, terror.
Oh my God.
Fear and terror.
Jesus Christ.
And then the minute, and you said it, you were like, the minute you get up there, you're not going to worry about it, and it may have been literally the minute I stepped on, because they didn't have me on yet, and I just got on the stage. And I remember looking at everyone, and I was like, all right, bet. And then I went back down, and then it was on. But the fear was the same. Mm-hmm. Same level of fear. That's what the funny part is. I was like, wow, the fear really showed the fuck up. Like, I was like, wow, they don't quit. They don't quit. That whatever part of me is in charge of the fear is super on point. And
unlike his pancreas.
Right. They need to focus more on the pancreas, because they let that go to shit. And Saitama. And the same amount of fear, but it's like loud noise. It doesn't seem as loud when you hear it a lot, and I don't think it goes away. I think it's just how it is.
Yeah.
And luckily, every bit of my life prior to doing these things has been in some way preparing it. Like at my office, I do a lot of these big presentations and lots of teaching and coaching and training and working with people and helping individuals and sacrificing and like trying to just work with people through accomplishing things for them or the team. And it's all led to the next thing begets the next thing, and I'm excited to see what's around the corner. Look at you got the big podcast. It's like all you do the things, you have people in mind, you do your best, you try to have good intent, you have the best intentions you can. I think if a horrible calamity begets me after this,
I'll let you guys know.
We'll roll with the punches, but yeah, things are pow.
So before we wrap up and leave, I want to say that finally we got in here on a Saturday. The studios hired a new person to help work on Saturdays because our show's been late the past 2 weeks, coming out on Wednesday night or Thursday morning because they're not, I think it'll be better this week. To keep my comments to myself. It'll be better this week and it should be on time, which I'm happy about. And really quick, Philip, if somebody, before we introduce Finnegan, because our doggy's been here the whole time and you guys didn't even notice because he's such a good boy.
So
okay?
Good.
He's such a good boy. So
he's passed out. He's in his natural state.
So if somebody wanted to get involved in crypto, what do you suggest?
All right. So if you want to get involved in crypto, first of all, we need to remind everyone, you have a responsibility and an obligation to learn about crypto. It is the future. It's not some fad thing that the boomers aren't tolerable for. It's something that is going to fundamentally changed everything. So you got to get on board. How do you do that? You jump in. You are going to have to overcome that. You're not going to understand it fully. It's computer science. Before you get involved and start reaping the rewards and benefits of being involved. So start small. I would get onto Coinbase or don't use Robinhood. Coinbase, crypto.com, any of these major sites, get your KYC done, set up your information.
What's a KYC?
Know your customer. That's so you can transact funds. And you're going to show them your ID, you're going to prove your identity.
Like verifying your account.
Verify your account. And you're going to start small. Buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum, go small and go consistently. And if you make small, consistent buys, like everything is cyclical, right? We're on this wave. Right now, we're at a major trough, So this is where all the money is made. So you have a beautiful opportunity to avoid years of carnage and just get involved on an elevator that's going up. So go small, go consistent, and be safe. Quick intel is one of many resources. You don't want to be clicking on links. You don't want to connect your wallet to stuff off in DeFi. If somebody sends you something, hey, check this out. There is no free lunch in crypto. When they say, hey, send this and you'll get free tokens, you're going to get scammed. So no clicking on links. Use contract addresses for all tokens. Scan contracts as often as possible. And reach out for help. There's so many resources. You have to take the first step. Everything's hard until you learn it, but this stuff is not difficult. It all builds on itself. It's using lots of the normal processes you use now with other things, and just get involved. Get involved. Go small. Go slow. Be consistent.
Like I said, I don't have a ton of crypto, but I have Ethereum and a little bit of Bitcoin. And
you do good.
Yeah, I do okay. And I just keep it there. I don't plan on taking it out anytime soon because our market is shit, in my opinion. So I will keep it there until it goes up. When
the busboy is giving you advice again on crypto picks, that's the top of the market. You sell then, you buy now. That's how it works.
It is really a good time to buy anything, even the stock market. So yeah, thank you, Lovey.
I'm so glad you brought me on here.
Yeah, thanks for coming to hang out with us on our Back Alley Chatters. Phil hates the name of our podcast.
I love the old logo. Yeah.
He said it's like a sexual thing, but I didn't think about that. I was thinking of like we're talking in the back alley, like where I spend most of my day at work. I'm like in these back alleys and like under the bridge and like dark alleyways. So
She is. This like poor girl is constantly in peril at her job.
Phil always thinks I'm going to die. He's constantly concerned about my safety.
Miss Lisa, take care of my lady.
Let's show them Finny. Can we wake him up before we go?
Yeah.
All right, we got a dog. Hi, and his name is Finnegan, as I've been telling you guys.
Look here, the sweet potato. Come here. Come here, Papa. Come. Can I grab him?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Put him on your lap because the camera's facing you. He learned how to... Oh, he's so cute, isn't he? He learned how to ring the bell yesterday when he had to go to the bathroom twice. He was so good. He was like, ding, 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 I got to go outside, guys. And we took him, and he went potty right away. He's only he just turned 4 months old. And it would happen that his birthday is the day that Suka was created.
Does anyone believe any of that? His birthday is on Suka's birthday.
What? And we didn't even get a choice. They just gave us the dog.
They handed us
this is your dog.
This baby dragon. 2024 is Year of the Dragon. Get into the Suka train. Come into the Telegram, find out about it, message me, message any of the admins. It's honestly being part of a community token. Think of it the difference between dictatorship, being other tokens, one person involved, versus merit-based democracy, where everybody has an equal opportunity. That's Suka. These are the community tokens. That's the future of finance. So get involved in the community, ask questions, ask for help, lean on people. We're a community of love, and pow, we got to do this together. But this is the Finny boy, and
he's so cute. He's our little baby. And guys, please like, share, subscribe, send our podcast to a friend. I love you guys. Hey, we hit my goal. I made a goal in April to hit 500 followers on Back Alley Chat, and we hit that yesterday. We're at 503.
Pow.
So thank you guys so much for that. And like I said, we have merch. It'll be linked down below. Show quick intel, some love, and I love you all so much, and I will see you next week. Bye.